and today I'm here to discuss the amazing new Netflix movie, Do Revenge. I was so excited for this movie when it was first announced, and unfortunately I do have this gift that I've had throughout my life, where somehow when there's something that I'm really excited for, I get sick right when it comes out. So that's why I sound and look like this, and just rest assured that I am aware. But I loved this movie so much, and I actually probably wouldn't have had time to watch it as quickly as I did had I not been sick, so I guess there's a silver lining to everything. Basically, I was super looking forward to this movie, and I was going to be crushed if it wasn't as good as I was expecting it to be, and thankfully, for the most part, I think it definitely succeeded in its message. So, I talked a little about this in my trailer reaction, but the movie is based on an Alfred Hitchcock movie, Strangers on a Train, which I have never seen, but it's a similar premise of two strangers meet on a train and they kind of commiserate about their miseries and these people that they have in their lives and make a plot that the other one will take out the person since they have no connection to them and it wouldn't be traced back to the person who actually wants them gone. So I'm a sucker for modern adaptations of older things. I love Clueless, I love 10 Things I Hate About You, and turning an Alfred Hitchcock movie into a modern setting with teenage girls being the main characters, I think is such a beautiful, wonderful idea, and I think for the most part it was wonderfully executed, and I do really love it and want to scream about it from the rooftops when I get my voice back to full capacity, you know what I mean? So in this video I wanted to go over what I loved about the movie, what I didn't like as much, and also the parts that kind of left me conflicted. I think this is a movie that my feelings are going to change and grow on it the more I watch it and the more I read about people's reactions to it and parts that I missed and messages that I missed, because even just from being in there watching certain scenes and being like, oh my gosh, I don't like this scene, to then like thinking about it afterwards, like when I'm brushing my teeth and like ruminating on it, I'm like, wait, that like actually had like a point to it, and like you're supposed to kind of feel conflicted about certain things. So first of all, I want to talk about what I loved, because there is a lot. I think for the majority of this movie, I really enjoyed it, and it definitely delivered on the premise that we were given in the trailer. Talking about the good stuff I like, first off, I think the casting was amazing in this. I've said it before that Camila Mendes, she was born to play roles like this. Like, there is a reason that Veronica Lodge, as bat crazy as her lines are, turn into instant memifications, and that is because of Camila Mendes' delivery. I think she has such a great way of pulling off these like sophisticated, conniving characters that don't talk like anyone would talk in real life, and yet she makes cringy lines seem so cool and so effervescent, and she definitely did that. So I think she was a stellar casting choice. Maya Hawke too, I love getting to see her in more things, and I think this is another character that's kind of right up her alley. It's not too different from Robin, let's be honest, for the majority of it, but I feel like she really excels in that kind of like awkward, lanky, you know, kind of like I don't know how to sit in a chair properly kind of characters, and I think she really pulled this off well. And then the biggest, smartest casting decision I have to give them credit for is casting, let me get his name right, Austin Abrams, I think it is, as Max, who is obviously the main villain, especially in terms of Drea's whole storyline. When you think about what we know him from, honestly, I think the majority of people, I don't think it's unfair to say, would know him as Ethan from Euphoria, and then you could also know him from Dash and Lily, or Chemistry Hearts, My Chemical Hearts, whatever that one is with Lily Reinhart, and he's always played like the nice guy. So I think it was very intentional casting him as this kind of toxic masculinity guy who masquerades as a feminist and who pretends that he really cares about all these women issues when in fact he does not. I think it's really good, because I think if you would cast someone like Jacob Elordi or even like Noah Centineo, you know, someone who has kind of played bad boys before, like we would already kind of expect that from him. But I feel like in casting Austin, it was a genius move, because you come in with these assumptions already of he's a good guy, and you know, he doesn't have that kind of typical, like he's good looking, but he doesn't have that typical like leather jacket and I look like I'm 30 even though I'm playing a 17-year-old. Like, I feel like it was good because it's realistic, you know, that like, especially nowadays with like everything going on, it's not the like, you know, bad boy leather jacket tattoo guy. It's gonna be guys that like, you know, present as not overtly masculine and are comfortable with their more feminine side, but that don't mean that they are comfortable with respecting women. I think they did a great job with his character in general, and just, you know, the school, the environment of the school in general, I think was really good, because I think there's a fine line you have to walk with things like this, where it's like you're kind of critiquing over wokeness, right? But at the same time, in doing so, you can kind of veer too far and be like, oh, like now we're just turning into people that are gonna use this movie to be like, see, this is why I don't have to respect women. But I feel like they did a good job of showing just how like people don't practice what they preach, right? So we even had like the mention of all those girls who were talking about like the eco environment, and then Gabby came up and was like, yeah, I don't believe them, like I've seen them all use plastic straws. Like they have safe spaces, right? And they're like, oh, like if you get offended, like there's a safe space for that, but like they're not gonna stop you from getting offended, right? So it's all about looks. It's all about like, we want people to feel like they're accepted and they're belonged and they have a safe space, but at the end of the day, we don't believe in what we practice. And I think that was really interesting, because I think that's definitely a critique on like especially modern social media and stuff like that, of how like everyone's so quick to point fingers at people for making one little slip up. It's like it's so easy to critique someone while not following through that on yourself, and I feel like they did a really good job of portraying that. I feel like they did a good job of showing that, like, you know, people aren't perfect, and people acting like they're perfect and acting like they're hiding these things because they want to pretend that they're perfect, it doesn't work. I also really, really liked Camilla and Maya. Their chemistry was so amazing. I was kind of a little upset that like they weren't the LGBT relationship, although the romances that they each did have were pretty cute in the movie, I will say, but I think it would have been really cute to just go that extra mile. Their chemistry though was impeccable, and the friendship, I think you really had to believe in it, especially come towards the end when you kind of find out the big twist of everything. For them to then reconcile, I feel like you really had to believe in them supporting and loving each other, and I definitely did. I think they were really, really cute and sweet, and they both just seem to be having a lot of fun filming this, and I think the characters themselves play well off of one another. They even got like a cute little montage of like all the sweet fun moments they had together that I thought was really nice, and it culminated in kind of a, like, to me, Thelma and Louise-esque kind of ending where they're riding off into the sunset. It ends a little bit better than Thelma and Louise, but you know, that's kind of the feeling I had of it. And I think coupled with everything that I've been saying, I think a big reason why this all worked was that it was directed and written by women. And I just feel like you could definitely tell that this was a movie based around the female gaze rather than the male gaze. For example, when Drea's tape comes out, we never actually see anything of it. It's just heard. There's no reason to further humiliate her in showing us anything, because we already get her humiliation just by knowing what that feeling is like, because that's something that happens and that we see so often in media with just regular girls and celebrity females. Like, it just happens, so there was no need to really go farther than they did. And I think the argument could be made that had this been directed by a guy or written by a guy, we would have had to actually see more of the tape for them to feel like we could have got the full impact of her humiliation, but I appreciated that. And then even like the outfits, which I also feel like really worked well in the story, I think they still worked in being like, oh, they're teenage girls. Like even their bathing suits were like very much like, Eleanor had like one of those, like, I call them the Taylor Swift ones because I feel like she's the one that brought them back in style, but the like higher waisted ones, you know, and she had a cover up on for most of it, and it was just very much like how I feel like teenage girls would dress. For the majority of it, they were in very sleek and stylish clothes, but it was still like clothes that I feel like weren't just like showing off the boobs and the butts for no reason, you know, where it's like, especially because these are teenage girl characters, I feel like that was really appreciative to be like, hey, I would wear that, not just like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be so uncomfortable in that outfit, why would she ever wear that? And I feel like that's again an argument that you could be made, just like it wouldn't have felt that way had it been from the male gaze. And I think this also worked very well with Max's characterization, which is something I kind of struggled with for a while, because I feel like in setting up that they were like, you know, for so long, Drea was the only one that believed that he leaked the tape. Everyone else was kind of like, you don't have proof. Even Eleonora at one point was like, you don't have proof. And the only person that really believed it, aside from Drea, was Gabby, his sister. And I feel like other movies, especially when we got this scene where he was kind of connecting with Nora on the rooftop of being like, I don't want this life, like, I just want to be with my camera and take off. I was worried that they were setting up a like, oh, like he actually didn't leak the tape. Like someone else did, maybe his sister, maybe one of the friends, like someone else did. So then to get the confirmation at the end of like, no, he leaked it. And like Drea never faltered in her belief that it was him, no matter how much he was like, I support women, I champion women. Like, I really, really like that, because I think other writers, specifically maybe people who hadn't understood the nuances of this situation, might have done something where it was like, yeah, there was kind of a redemption arc for him, and there was really no redemption arc for him. I love that. I love, even after the girls realized that their revenge to each other wasn't going to make them feel better, it was just going to hurt them because they truly do love themselves, that they still needed the revenge on Max. And like, I love, that's kind of my issue with a lot of revenge movies, is I get it. I get the point of like, you know, like you can take it too far in revenge and lose yourself. But I feel like oftentimes it's like they try and equate like what the main characters have done with what the person they're trying to get back at has done. And I just feel like Max was such a bad guy that there was no redeeming that, or being like, oh, like what these girls have done is so bad that like let's just let bygones be bygones. So I like that this movie let them get back at him. And I do feel like what kind of bummed me out, but I feel like it's very realistic about the movie, is that that was when everyone turned on Max, was when there was undeniable proof of what he had done in the video showing him admitting to it. Like, everyone turned on him so quickly, and it was supposed to be like this kind of like, yeah, like everyone's on him, like his friends won't talk to him. But I just was kind of left feeling hollow, and not in like a bad way of like, oh, the movie let me down, but in like a realistic way of like, it's sad that like Drea had been saying for so long that he did this thing, and they even had tried to out him as a cheater previously, and yet they were able to kind of spin it. And I do think it's important to note that he didn't spin it, it was Tara's dad's strategist. Like, Tara was the one that spun it, not Max. So it kind of felt like I felt glad that like everyone turned on Max, but it felt like a hollow kind of thing of like, oh, now they're turning on him and now they want nothing to do with him, when they literally, they can't deny it. And I feel like we got a taste of this with the cheating thing, when like everyone was like, oh, I've always like not liked Max, blah blah blah, and then immediately turned back as soon as they had another reason to like him. And I feel like we kind of got a hint of this again at the end with the post-credit scene, where he was attending that like detangling your masculinity, your toxic masculinity kind of thing, and it was almost like showing that like he's gonna be fine, because it's like people are gonna look for a reason to root for him. And I feel like that was why it was kind of like, I'm glad that the girls got their revenge, but at the same time, like, I don't like forgive Tara, and I don't forgive whoever Pope from Outer Banks played for turning on him, because it's like they only turned on him when they couldn't deny it any longer, right? When it's like they couldn't just turn a blind eye and be like, oh, like I don't really get what's going on. So I think that was really well done though, because I feel like that's realistic, right? Of like, everyone wants to look for a reason to not believe that this guy is who he says he is, even when he shows it 55 ways to the sun. And it wasn't until they couldn't deny it any longer that they turned on him, because it wasn't, being associated with him wasn't worthwhile anymore where it was before. So I like that. The biggest drawback for me in terms of this movie, I think the Nora twist. So I was about 40 minutes into this movie when I started kind of wondering if Nora was plotting more than we realized she was in this. I just feel like putting together the evidence of not getting her story like firsthand, like we did Drea's, because we knew Drea was telling the truth because we saw it, and then also her just kind of approaching Drea in the way she did. And then it was the line where she specifically said, Drea, like, people are so egotistical that like they don't realize when they're getting manipulated, and Nora kind of had this look that I was like, okay, like she's clearly orchestrating a lot more of this than we realized. And I feel like, again, I didn't see Strangers on a Train, so I don't know how exactly this was kind of in the movie or not, but I just feel like it was a twist that was good, but it was, the pacing of it was weird, right? Because it was like they had just had this big fight, Drea had hurt her feelings, so you kind of feel like, okay, like I get it. But at the same time, Gabby had literally just called her out for not listening to Drea and for accusing Drea of being wrong in saying that Max spread the tape. So then you're like, wait, why is she now doing this? And I also feel it's very unrealistic to me that Drea would not remember saying that rumor. Like, I get that the point was probably supposed to be that she's so mean and she's done all this stuff that like she just forgot about it. But I feel like even if you forgot about it, someone point blank saying that rumor, like, I would be like, oh yeah, that would, like, I feel like that would jog your memory. So I found it very unrealistic that she didn't remember that. And then also it just got out of control all of a sudden. Like, it was like, I feel like a 180, and maybe it's just because I literally watched a movie on like how the villain twist in Disney is kind of overdone and like you can kind of see it coming, but I just feel like talk about a 180 in personality. Like, the little hints that we got of Nora's character before didn't seem like she would be able to pull off this kind of mechanism at all, you know? Like, it didn't seem like the whole, like, scene in the bathtub and all that, which was very cool and very, like, femme fatale. I loved it, but it just didn't fit her character, I feel like, and then culminating in, like, her literally crashing into her car. Like, my mom had started watching it at that point with me. Like, that was, like, when she sat down. She's like, what is going on? And I was like, I honestly have no idea. I was like, this just did, like, a total 180, and I just felt like it didn't fit with who we knew her as a character previously. Like, if she had been like that before and then she transformed herself into this kind of like mousy, like, you know, like, I'm gonna pretend that I need someone to give me a makeover kind of thing, then yeah, but like, that's not what we saw at all. So it just kind of felt very strange, especially because then within 10 minutes they had forgiven each other and it was over. So, you know, like, I feel like it was a good twist, even though I did see it coming. It was just the way it was pulled off was so quick. All within like 5 minutes, you're like, okay, wait, what is happening? So I just feel like that was not the best it could have been, but I do get why they put that in, just to be kind of an extra little twisty twist or whatever. And kind of the same with Sarah Michelle Gellar. I liked her, but I was so confused about her character, if she was actually like on Drea's side or not for the majority of the story, because it's like, we get that scene where she's like, you know, I'm so disappointed, I hate being wrong about people, like, I really thought you were Yale bound. And you're like, okay, like, Drea kind of has messed up. So, like, this is, you know, if someone's like, you know, like, you're messing up your future. Like, I get that. But then at the end, Drea's like, you know, I don't really know if I care about Yale anymore. And she's like, you're absolutely right. Like, you're young. Like, just don't figure out who you are. Get lost. And I'm like, wait, which one is it though? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was confusing for that. And then just the Yale stuff in general with Drea too. I feel like I wish I had gotten more backstory into why exactly Yale was so important to her, because it was this thing that she was like, I've cultivated my whole life around like getting into Yale, but like, we didn't even know, like, did she want to be a lawyer? Like, she made her clothes, so for a while I thought like she wanted to be a fashion designer and that would be really cool, but then it was like there was no talk about like why she wanted to get into Yale. Like, I would have liked to know more about it. Like, did she want to be a lawyer because of like her seeing her mom and like how she struggled throughout life, or did she like want to be a lawyer just because it's a high paying job? And then it makes more sense of why she's like, I'm just gonna go and like backpack and like enjoy and find myself, you know, like, that was, I would have liked a little more dig into that. So then I think what I walked away with the majority of this movie is I was very happy. And I think the more I think about this movie, the more I think it really, really nails the feel of teenage girls, and specifically with Drea and Nora and their relationship, because I think Drea summed it up best when she's like, they're effed up soulmates, of like, they are multifaceted. And I think the song at the end where they're like, I'm a bitch, I'm a liar, I'm a mother, I'm a lover, sums their characters up perfectly. And that's what really made it click for me, was it's like, these girls are not intrinsically good or bad. You can't be like, they're all 100% good, they're all 100% bad. Like, they had situations and things that happened to them and things that they themselves did that, you know, made it so you could either root for them or root against them. I ultimately rooted for them because I think that they owned up to their mistakes overall, and I feel like it just showed the layers to them of like, you know, they are bitches. They can be mean to people, and they have been mean to people in the past. But you know what? They're also best friends to each other. She's a great daughter. She's a really good friend. You know, we see like Drea making costumes for Nora's lizard, and we see Nora kind of having fun and really comforting Drea when she had no one, and being like, you don't have to be brave all the time, and just seeing these layers to them. I feel like we don't often get to see that especially with movies about teenage girls, where it's like you either want to pit them against each other, or like, these are the good girls and these are the bad girls, but it's like this kind of showed that, like, you know, like, in another story, these girls probably easily could have been the villain of someone's story, but showing their growth and their struggles showed what they really went through and showed that they are multifaceted. Like the song said, you know, they're all those things combined together. So I loved it. I think it was so beautifully done. I think the twist, like I said, was probably the least a favorite of my parts, because it just felt like, you know, especially if you're trying to get back at Drea, like, don't you feel like she kind of already got her karma with what happened to her? And going off of that, I also feel like it wasn't addressed enough for me that what Max did was literally a crime. Like, I feel like people just kind of brushed it aside of like, you know, even when it came out, like, oh, he lied, he's not a feminist, like, he did this thing, and I'm like, that's actually a crime, fun fact. So, like, I just feel like more people just brushed it off of like, Drea, like, just get on with your life, it's fine. And I'm like, no, that's something that's gonna follow her everywhere, like, and he did that. So, like, I wish there would have been more, not even if it was just repercussions for Max, because I feel like, again, it was probably unrealistic, unfortunately, in the world we live in, for there to be repercussions for him. But just if someone sat Drea down and was like, you know, like, that, like, someone committed a crime against you, you know, and like that's really bad, and like the full ramifications of that had been at least acknowledged. I just wish that had been more poignantly said, because I think that was also important to note. But I do feel like their friendship was just so amazing, and I do really love the scene of when she was like, you know, like, you don't have to be brave and strong all the time, it could break down in front of her, and, you know, they got each other in a way that they really are effed up soulmates. So I really, really love this movie. Like I said, I feel like I will have thoughts and thoughts on it for days, years, weeks to come while I read more about it and think more about it, because even like I said, like at the end I was like, what's the point of the ending of like them just driving off? But then the song, and I was like, that's it. It's like showing these girls aren't good, these girls aren't bad. The movie is not made to condemn these girls or to exonerate them for what they've done. It's for you to decide and you to see that like they really are just girls trying their best, you know, like with the thing they've got, and at the end they made the decision to forgive each other and move on and be friends, and I think that was just really sweet. So yeah, I really, really liked it. I think it's a great movie. It's beautiful to look at, the acting's superb. So definitely 5 out of 5 stars for me, and I am so curious to hear everyone else's thoughts on it, because like I said, I think everyone can take away something different from this movie based on experience, and also based on like what they saw and who they saw each character as in this movie. So I'm super, super excited to hear your thoughts on it. So please feel free to leave those down below in the comments, what your favorite parts were and what you thought of the characterization of the girls. Also, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!